The first way out of side control most people learn is the basic elbow escape. And while it does work, there's also a completely different way out that offers some unique advantages that I personally prefer. And it's based on one simple movement that works well with many forms of guard retention, and once you see it, you'll find it everywhere. Even if you're already familiar with it, we might help you see connections and applications you haven't thought of. And if you don't already know me, my name's Sean. I'm a BJJ black belt, software engineer, and coach at Renzo Gracie Brooklyn. Now with that out of the way, let's get this thing started.
Okay, let's run.
So the movement itself we're going to talk about is when you're on your back and then you build to an elbow prop, which you can then also use to transition to a hand prop. If you're familiar with the Turkish get-up exercise, it's similar to the transition where you go from flat or supine to build up to your elbow. Although in jiu-jitsu, you're usually not holding your opponent directly overhead, so your knees and free arm are usually pointed off to one side. Like your other hand usually has some sort of grip or frame to maintain distance and to restrict your opponent's movement. This allows us to build up and create a strong structure, which we can then use to continue to rise and push forward or fall back into the space we created to do things like recover guard. We'll get into many of the finer points later and many of the countless situations this movement applies, but it seems pretty simple, right? We're going to start things off with some escapes from side control and then also show how this applies for guard retention and then go into some other connections you might not expect. Now, probably the most common form of escape from side control is the basic elbow escape. And the way this typically works is that you're trying to make space and insert your knee up high at the hip and then bring it down to connect your knee and elbow, creating a nice frame. Now, of course, many people know this, and when they sense you're going for an elbow escape, what they'll do is they'll turn to go hip to hip and close off this space. And whenever they do this, it's the perfect time to look for this elbow prop transition. To use this to escape, we have to make sure they're low up over our hip, they're not up high on our chest. And it's very important our free arm comes across, we straighten that arm, we form a C grip on the bicep, very low by the bend of the elbow. Now with our other arm, we're gonna make sure we bring our elbow up high, above your shoulder level. Then we're gonna build up to our elbow while we continue to push with our cross straight arm frame. Typically at this point, if you're able to build up, you can then scoop back and reclaim the space you created to recover guard. Sometimes though, especially beginners, they will try hard to resist, keeping their weight on you. If this happens, you can continue to build up to your hand and then even end up in top side control. Now, just to review some of the few key details, make sure they are low over your hip. If they're high up, like at your chest, you'll find it very difficult to sit up. Draw your elbow high above your shoulder line near your head. If you don't, the position is off and it's easy to collapse. With your cross arm, frame low at their elbow. If you're higher up on the arm, it won't create as much space and they can swim their arm through for a crossface or near side underhook. We broke this down step by step, but like with many of the things we're going over today, they happen almost at the same time, so it's very important to use timing and momentum. Now, if you go for this and they counter by squaring back up, getting rid of that hip to hip connection, that actually opens up a few options. Since they're no longer covering that space at the hip, you could go back to your elbow escape, or especially if they are driving back to try to control your head as they square up, you could transition to building to an elbow prop on the other side, facing away from them instead. And that's exactly what we're going to cover next. Escaping in the other direction away from your opponent with the elbow prop is one of Marcelo Garcia's signature techniques. The way it works is you can use both your arms to create frames and fight the crossface from side control, but as they drive back, you can redirect and pass it off. Then control behind the elbow with your cross arm and then build to an elbow prop just like before. Then if they stay low and they don't disengage, you can scoot back to reclaim the space you created and square back up to guard. And you don't have to go for the same side elbow prop to set this up either. You just need to create situations where you have frames in place, so when they're driving to control your head, you can use this to redirect them. And it's also an option if they have both their arms across your body in side control. And in this case, a frame on the armpit works really well with this variation. A key detail of this one, it's important you really sit up and get your head up high, which blocks them if they go to rotate to north-south. I personally think it's no coincidence Marcelo Garcia prefers this technique. Like, it connects really well with butterfly guard. But also, when you look at one of his favorite sweeps, the X-Guard stand-up sweep, it's another application of this movement pattern, sitting up and building up with an elbow prop to get to your feet. And honestly, I think this is one of the reasons why it's also one of my favorite sweeps as well. Now we're going to go through many more applications of this movement, but before we do that, I just want to share a little song to help us remember some of the key details.
They turn their hips and shut the door so tight, but there's a way, a path they'll never see. One simple movement and you'll be set free. Rise up from the ground, they can't hold you down. Elbow high, frame in place, build it up and make the space. Sit up, push through, give your all. Elbow prop will save you. Turn toward, turn away, it works both ways. The master knew it, used it all his days. From escapes to guard, the movement stays the same. Once you see it now, it's never looked the same.
Now, what we've gone over so far were escapes from side control, but remember how I said you can find this from everywhere? Well, guard retention is where it really shines. And personally, I love the way it connects with butterfly guard and seated guard once you've created the space and use it to recover. You should look for both the techniques we've gone over so far when your opponent is passing, but before they fully establish the position. Like, obviously, it's going to be significantly more difficult to use these techniques. They've already established the position and have a really strong crossface in place. With that being said, there are specific pass counters and timings we can look to take advantage of. And the first one is a defense or counter to basic styles of double under or stack passing. And the way this basically works, you want to use timing and momentum as they go around the corner to complete the pass. You want to make sure you get a grip behind their elbow to open it up, and then you want to prop up through your elbow and then to your hand on the other side.
And I make this grip here. Look how I don't put my elbow inside, my frame is on the floor. This grip is super important, guys. So this part of my hands go here, under the elbow, and I make a grip in the gi. Now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna pulse my elbow, and I'm gonna use my legs against her head, and I start to sit up. Boom. I push away. Now I'm gonna start to slide my hips. 1, 2, and I recover my guard back.
By the way, that clip was from a course available on Digitsu called the Impassable Guard Formula by Bruno Frazzato. The full course covers guard retention strategies and drills, including common counters to many other passing styles like Toreando, leg drags, over-unders, half guard, and more. If you want to check it out along with other courses from dozens of world-class instructors, there's a link in the description. Now let's move on and continue with more grip variations and places where this shows up. In gi, you can use the same side collar grip and build up to your elbow as well. If you're playing knee shield and they weave their hand through for the pass, you can recover with an elbow prop, create space, and use that to sit back to guard. And from here, you also have the option to roll through back to guard as well. You can also use the cross collar grip to frame to create space to counter knee slice passes, making sure you're freeing your sleeve first to recover so you can build to your elbow. Another really effective grip versus the knee slice pass with this movement is a thumb down, same side collar grip. But this also works really well for leg drag and outside Toreando passes. When they go to pin your knees, you can then use the grip to maintain space and build up through your elbow and hand, allowing you to sit up and regain guard. And it's also a common counter using the sleeve grip off the Toreando. If you control their sleeve as they go to pass to the outside, you can use their movement along with the stiff arm of the sleeve to build up to your elbow. As long as you maintain that grip with the stiff arm on their sleeve, their arm isn't free to cross-face you or take your back. You can also use forearm frames on their head and neck when they're really close range. And if they're too close for that, you can even use your throat here like Joseph Chen to form an effective frame. Well, okay, maybe not that last one. But seriously, with a neck like this, how are you supposed to choke them? There are even more techniques that build off of this elbow prop movement. You know, we mentioned the X-guard buildup, which is basically a technical stand-up. But you may have also noticed this same movement is very similar to what you might see with many octopus guard entries. Instead of controlling inside to maintain distance and recover guard, you can instead build up to your elbow or hand and then reach around underneath their crossface arm. So yeah, it's everywhere. And if you happen to be experimenting with octopus guard or it's part of your game, I suggest giving the other techniques in this video a try. You'd be surprised how familiar they might feel. So yeah, we covered a lot, but if there's one thing you're going to take away from this video, jiu-jitsu isn't just a series of isolated techniques. There are fundamental movements combined with different grips, positions, and timings. The elbow prop is just one of these building blocks. And once you start to see jiu-jitsu this way, breaking things down into their fundamental movements, the connections begin to reveal themselves. Anyway, many of these techniques have been a huge part of my game for years, and I hope they help you too. And while you're at it, I suggest you look for movements like this in your own game. You might be surprised what you find. By the way, I also have a newsletter where I go deeper into the topics from my videos. If you sign up, I'll send you free instructional content from grapplers like Mason Fowler, Eddie Cummings, Jason Rao, and more. If you want to check it out, you can go to digitsu.com/SeanABJJ. And as always, there's a link in the description. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you found it helpful, please subscribe. And as always, thank you for watching.